very aggressive deck against a lot of those decks that need time.
Yeah.
You know, Murloc Paladin would fill up the board way too much for Quest Rogue to get the quest completed, as an example. So let's go ahead and start off the series with Quest Rogue versus Quest Mage. Now, this is not exactly a matchup that I've played a lot on ladders. Therefore, I'm going to turn to you, TJ, and ask, what do you think about this matchup?
I talked about this matchup a little bit with some of the players that brought this, notably Killing All Day. He brought the same exact lineup as Tare, and they practiced together. It's kind of weird because both players are doing their own thing. They're not really caring about what the other player does until a certain point in the game. And usually that certain point is when the rogue starts to get close to completing their quest. A lot of times there's not very much board interaction. It's all about whether or not the quest rogue can finish their quest in time and find enough damage from hand, i.e. chargers like South Sea Deckhand, Stone Tusk Boar, and maybe some patches thrown in there in order to pop ice blocks very early on in the game. So that's going to be a pretty big deal for Tare if he can find that. He's got Igneous Elemental plus Shadow Step, but with the Quest Rogue change, you need 5, so he's not quite in the realm of having the cards to complete his quest yet. And because of that, Blakers might have a little bit of advantage, but not much card draw. Cold Light Oracle works against him a little bit, while Arcanologist is card draw. He'd much rather have some of those hard cycle cards like Arcane Intellect.
Does that stop you from drawing? I still feel like you need to get card draw under your belt here. That's part of what makes the Quest Mage go. We've seen people struggle and they don't have the card draw. They just get stuck. Even if they complete the quest, it's not enough.
Yeah, patch drawn for Tare, not what he wanted to see. He would much rather see Firefly. Oh, well, that makes things a little bit more interesting. Tare actually has all the tools he needs to complete the quest now. It just needs the mana and the turns to be able to do so. Again, this is all about, sort of that turn 7, turn 8. Where does the game state lie when you get to that stage? If the quest is complete for the rogue and they have charges in hand and can deal a lot of damage to the face and avoid being stuck by freeze effects, they can get that early block pop and usually be able to take out the mage before they're able to pick up their combo pieces. But it is sort of a race, and that's sort of the nature of quest mirrors. Just any of the decks, whether you're talking about Warrior, Mage, or Rogue, that's what you have to do.
It's like Tare's going to try and get as much of the quest done as he can soon, and realizing that if he's able to invest into the mana right now with things like Shadow Step, he can perhaps play the quest in the next 2 turns. Meanwhile, B-Lakers still just going to stick onto the normal stuff, card draw, and he's going to also try to avoid killing the Igneous Elemental if he can. However, that would require him to play Frost Nova this turn, which I think would be a waste, so...
Yeah, Frost Nova is a really big tool, because later on in the game, Tare's going to have a board full of 5/5s. If he misses a freeze effect for a turn, he'll take
20 damage.
Yeah, at least, sometimes even more with chargers and bouncers and things like that. So doesn't really have a choice but to just let Tare have it. And at this point, I'm liking Tare's hand. He's got 15 damage from hand with chargers alone. He's going to have all the flame elementals that he needs to finish his quest, because he has a bounce effect here for one of these flame elementals. So he's sitting pretty.
So do you feel like the Quest Rogue is favored against the Quest Mage?
I don't know. I would say it's very close. I would say probably the Quest Rogue has maybe a 55-45 matchup, but
advantage.
I don't think anybody has practiced the matchup enough to give a definitive answer. Even the players that brought this lineup were practicing this deck against Jade Druid and Highlander Priest mainly. They weren't practicing it against Quest Mage because they didn't expect it that much. They were practicing its other lineups. So even the players that have played this matchup a lot probably don't know precisely what the matchup is, but just from talking and thinking about the matchup a bit, I'd say Quest Rogue is a little bit favored as long as they can complete the quest before, say, turn 7.
Sure. And Tare definitely has that available to him, as he has 4 out of 5 and ready to get that last piece of the quest underway. He's able to find preparation. He could also go for a big swing, but doesn't find it. And the Caverns Below has been completed. But the Mage has the board stalls. It's important to note that even Kona Cold can be very useful as well, just to stall out some damage.
Yeah, and also Blakers was able to pick up Volcanic Potion from the Kabbalah Stone.
Ooh, yeah.
So that is actually a big tool right now, because when the quest is played, which is going to be next turn, B Lakers is not going to have to deal with all of those 5/5 minions. I mean, that could have been almost game ending right there if B Lakers wasn't able to pick up the tools to deal with that big of a push early on, because that was 30 damage on the board with quest being played next turn. So
B Lakers taking it really slow, has the opportunity to get some cards out of his hand. One of the big problems is, you know, your hand economy is sometimes too large, and because of the hand limit size, you end up having like a really awkward amount of cards because you want to draw, but you have too many, and then you have to make room for the quest.
yeah.
So, I was kind of wondering how B Lakers were going to space out things like his ice barriers.
Yeah.
There also is the case where sometimes you get really desperate and you have to go for an early quest completion with the Sorcerer's Apprentice. But then you can have the 12 damage of the Sorcerer's Apprentice on board.
Yeah.
Plus maybe a couple of Cabal's Tome spells. Maybe that's a way you can win too, because Quest Rogue is not known to heal.
No, not at all. It's a very fringe win condition, but it is present. But right now, B Lakers is in trouble. The dagger hit's pretty important from Tare because it puts him at that, you know, that 6 damage threshold where he has a dagger hit plus 3 5/5 attacks. Give him room.
Guess that's where the ice barrier comes in.
That's where the ice barrier comes in, yeah. And there's one active right now as well as the ice block, and he's just gonna freeze.
Yeah, his hand size is too big. He has Arcane Intellect and Cabal's Tome. I feel like you could have been a little bit greedier with that. But B Lakers is obviously keeping his hand size into account here. And plus, that's not a freeze that's native to his deck anyway, so he probably feels like he can get away with just tossing it out right now. Yeah. Also, because the real threat is not what's on board, but what's in hand. So Cone of Cold isn't really going to stop much pressure from the next turn or two. It's usually the threat of chargers is what's scary.
Yeah, now, one thing that B Lakers can maybe rely on a bit is Frost Nova Doomsayer or Blizzard Doomsayer. Rogue does have quite a few ways to deal with Doomsayers on the board, with bounce effects on chargers, and also with Vanish, especially Prep Vanish. So that's something that B Lakers has to keep in his mind. But right now, Atari's basically going kind of all in on the board with chargers. I don't know if this is the right call, considering he has no chargers left in his hand. If Frost Nova Doomsayer were to come out this turn, he would struggle to find a way to deal with it, and he would lose that damage from hand potential that he has. And he actually doesn't even have that many more left in his deck. He's got Stone Test Boar, which he can find with the cycle. He could maybe pick up a Vanish as well from either his Natural Draw or Novice Engineer, but it's still rough. And B Lakers is actually getting pretty close to his combo. He's got the double Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Molten Reflection. He needs one more copy effect for a Sorcerer's Apprentice plus the Archmage Antonidas, and then he'll be able to get there.
Well, he actually doesn't even need the 4 Sorcerer's Apprentice sometimes. Oh, wow. Double Youthful Brewmaster.
That's really good. And he won't be able to pop this turn because of the mana constraints as well as the ice barrier. But he's getting ever closer, and B Lakers is running out of time. He doesn't even have a freeze effect in his hand at the moment, so his block will get popped next turn unless he picks up something. But one thing about Quest Mage is it can get really scrappy later on in the game.
Yeah.
Just popping an ice block doesn't even guarantee that you're going to win the game. You have to get through 1 ice block, 2 ice blocks, potentially 3, 4 even yesterday that we saw on stream with Fishy, a player who also brought Quest Mage. It can get pretty scary at times. And B Lakers, while he doesn't have freeze effects, he's got Cabal's Tome, he's got Primordial Glyph, Arcane Intellect to potentially pick those up. So even though this one looks Tari favored, this could be really close as we get closer to the finish line. And there's another ice block, so that's a good generation. And he picks up Arcane Intellect. That is, outside of a freeze effect instead of Pyroblast, that is almost an ideal Cabal's Tome. And picks up Molten Reflection from Primordial Glyph.
Yeah, Molten Reflection means that he has 4 Sorcerer's Apprentice that he can also get for very cheap. His quest is 3 out of 6, and he has Arcane Intellect, Ice Block, Glacial Mysteries, Mirror Image. So he should be able to complete the quest. And if he's able to get even just a little bit more damage in, if he's able to keep 4 Sorcerer's Apprentice, that's 12 damage, plus a Pyroblast, well, that's 22. He's just a couple points off from killing the Rogue guarantee.
Yeah. But block will be popped at 1,
right?
Which means a dagger hit will do it as well. If his board is frozen, he doesn't have chargers left. So That's one block. 2 more to go, and B Lakers has a ton of draw left. Unless Antonidas at this point is in the bottom 5 cards, I believe, he should just win.
Yeah, I'm like trying to do the calculations, and with Simulacrum, I think that all but guarantees it. He's going to be able to have 5 Sorcerer's Apprentice on board plus the Pyroblast. He should be able to Ice Block and ping this turn, and that's going to guarantee him, as long as he gets everything correctly and make sure he like doesn't burn the quest, for example.
You're right.
100% guaranteed lethal over 2 turns here from Ice Blakers. Well, 3 if you count the extra turn from Time Warp.
The extra turn from Time Warp, yeah. But you really count that as 1 turn. So it's not often that you see those type of wins with Quest Mage, where they don't even need Antonidas. They just do it with straight up damage on the board. A lot of times you see it against more like aggressive decks, where you're in a desperate situation, you have to go for it. But it looks like B Lakers will be able to edge this one out.
Now the question is if he sees that. Sometimes people kind of tunnel vision into their Antonidas, and they think, okay, I have more time. I can like Ice Block, Frost Nova, and I don't think there's any way for their opponent to try to actually be able to get through this, unless they're playing a copy of Swashbuckler, for example, that some of the Quest Rogues in the past did. And if they do, Valir the Hollow. That's a way you can kind of avoid it.
It doesn't do anything, though. Well, it does. It blocks the ping.
Yeah, but the thing about Valir the Hollow is that if Mage takes an extra turn, you still can't interact with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it doesn't. Valir is still stealth even after the Time Warp and take an extra turn.
Interesting.
Until you come back to your next turn as a rogue. That's actually the one thing that you can do to stop it.
Oh yeah, because the stealth is not a turn-based.
Until
it's
your
just
next
turn. Yeah, you're right. And also you gain the armor, so that it gets rid of the win condition anyway of the just putting a bunch of Sorcerer's Apprentice on board and burning your opponent out with pings and burn spells. So
I'm pretty sure B Lakers missed that opportunity here just to actually go for the guaranteed win, and now he's kind of stuck in this. I need some real help here. That's not how it works.
Someday I'll be just like you.
He's going for it. He has 2 Arcane Intellects. He also has a Babbling Book on board. A little awkward. He might have.
But if it works the way you mentioned, then he won't. Even if he draws Antonidas with the time. With the Time Warp block. But he would need a randomly generated ice block because he's played both of his natural ice blocks.
Oh man! I really need to see this. I'm going to be so embarrassed if I'm wrong about this, by the way.
I've actually never seen that interaction. I've never played against a rogue with Quest Mage that played Valir the turn that I wanted to combo.
Well, look. See what happens. He finds Antonidas.
Finds Antonidas. So it's entirely dependent on that very mechanic if the stealth goes away.
Lo and behold.
There it is. Still stealthed. I don't think B Lakers has even ever seen this interaction. He can remove.
It's a very obscure one.
He can remove the board. That's one thing that he can do. He can completely remove the board, but then the dagger hit's going to do it.
He's just dead to the dagger.
That's it. That's insane. Can't Frostbolt face either.
And he had this game 100% won, I believe. If you're able to kind of map out how he was able to use the Sorcerer's Apprentice, guarantee an extra turn, he had a Pyroblast that's really cheap, could have pinged, that would have been 26.
And Valira.
5 Sorcerer's Apprentice, Pyroblast ping, that's 26, and they gained that 5 armor. And the Rogues are down with Valir the Hollow off the top of his deck. Teray stole that game from B Lakers.
Yeah, now B Lakers would have needed an extra